movie audiences first saw Robert Duvall on film 20 years ago in To Kill a Mockingbird as Boo Radley. 30 films later, Vincent Canby wrote in the New York Times, "It's about time to recognize Robert Duvall as one of the most resourceful, most technically proficient, most remarkable actors in America today. I think he may well be the best we have, the American Olivier." And we'll be right back with Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall, we've been talking about films and actors, your colleagues. I was just thinking of the acclaim and the kind of pride you had having done Arthur Miller earlier in your career, but then doing A View from the Bridge. Have you dropped in on Tony LaBianco to see the revival of A View from the Bridge?
No, I have. Have you? No.
No?
No, I haven't. I heard about it, and Rose Gregorio plays his wife, Ulu's wife in reality, who was in True Confessions. And but I've been meaning to go, and maybe I will, but I haven't had a chance to yet. I've been out of New York, and they just opened. Be interesting to see it, you know, to see a different
Certainly
cast.
would be for you.
Yeah, we had a terrific cast.
Who else was in that with you when you did it?
Well, Johnny Voight, Ray Bieri, who's doing well, Richie Castellano, Susan Ansbach, and the only person that hasn't started to work a lot commercially was the woman that played the wife. Carmen Caridi was in it, and Dusty Hoffman was assistant stage manager. He would fill in understudy walk-on parts. It was a lot of fun.
It's fascinating, you know, preparing to meet you, to have this conversation. And images flash through the mind, whether I went back and referred to 1963, To Kill a Mockingbird and Boo Radley. And there's so many films. I mean, there are more than 30 now. But when I think of specific things and how affected I was, along with millions of others, by Bull Meacham in The Great Santini, and what you and Blythe Danner and Michael O'Keefe did together, that interacting between actors, and Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore in Apocalypse Now. And there's always this sense of there's you and there's Robert Mitchum and there was John Wayne, and there's always a feeling of if one should say the wrong thing, this heavy hand will come down. And there's a sense of apprehension. Maybe Tom Hagen, maybe even being the consigliere for the family, and being so aware of power. There just seems to be a source of power in certain kind of actors, and you seem to have it. I say this to you because you show up and you're a man of obvious gentility and sensitivity. And some of those creations, I mean, I don't know if a day with Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore surfing, in whatever circumstances, would be as pleasant as an afternoon talking to you. Is this making any sense? That you have created people of such power and passion, there's an apprehensiveness about the real man.
Yeah. Well,
do you get that from people?
Danger, or somebody once said, or, you know, I think certain actors that achieve certain things have certain unpredictability, certain dangers, certain, you don't know what's coming next, certain surprises, and I guess that comes within whatever a person has within them, either secretly or otherwise. Part of their makeup is another side to them, and it's part of whatever talent might be. Sometimes you meet very interesting people, actors too, that drink and they carry on, and you say, geez, you know, especially when you're young, you're insecure about who can do what, you know. You see a guy like that, and he's an interesting, fascinating guy, you know, they drink, they carry on, or they charismatic personality, and then when they try to transfer it, they can't. Then you might see you know, certain people that aren't as obviously magnetic in life and so forth and so on. They may walk into a room, you may not, you know, even recognize them, and they have whatever it takes talent-wise to make that transfer, to be able to utilize what they have or use themselves in an imaginary situation to come alive and create something that's really immediate.
When the legendary drama coach, Sanford Meisner, says there are two actors in America, Marlon Brando and Robert Duvall, and when you say that you are conscious of Brando's power, and I can go back to The Chase, when you were working with Arthur Penn, and then we go up to Apocalypse Now, and you're working with Brando, or you're working on the same film with Brando.
Yeah.
Was the power based on what you saw on stage, or was your feeling of his power, his film presence?
No, I never saw him work on stage. He was working the theater before I came to New York. And I think, you know, like when we did The Godfather, he was like the Godfather to actors in a way, in reality, and we could relate in that way. I just think he was like, not exactly prophetic, but he was kind of a forerunner of a certain type of truthfulness in acting, although people have had it through the ages anyway, you know, Spencer Tracy, people like that, Duza, obviously. And although I don't think there are other wonderful actors in America besides, you know, I'm sure that was before somebody like De Niro, or probably Sandy never really saw Hackman at his best, or we had once seen George Scott in a performance early in his career, and although we thought he made a lot of mistakes in the performance, I said, but he's very talented, and Sandy agreed, you know. Different, there are wonderful actors in America, is probably as good as there are in any country. But I just think Brando probably, you know, I don't think that much about him anymore because he reads lines, and I don't think he's really interested. For 15 lines, for years he's read lines, you know. There's just more of a shell there that maybe what was there or what could have been. Although in this thing where he played Porky Pig with George Scott in the movie,
The Formula.
I thought he was excellent.
The Formula? Steve Shagan?
Yeah, I thought it was the best performance in the movie by far. Because maybe he knew he had to come up to something. He's in there with Gielgud and Scott, you know, so he had to show off what he could do, you know. But it's something I guess he had always, you know. I understand on stage he had a wonderful thing. I think Alec McCowan said when he saw him in Streetcar Named Desire that he blushed, he got embarrassed because when Brando walked on, he thought it was one of the stagehands that walked on by mistake because he was behaving. Like when you see a dog walk across stage, they're so pure in behavior that it make the other people look like the actors they are, possibly.
When your friend Dustin Hoffman picked up his Academy Award and said, actually, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, to win a prize for giving the best performance by an actor is not acceptable because actors are not comparable. We're not show dogs. Show dogs are comparable, but actors are not. You're a 3-time Academy Award nominee. Do you share Dustin Hoffman's feelings that there really shouldn't be prizes based on the best?
It's hard to answer, I guess, because I don't know if I quite agree with him on that, in that, you know, not necessarily pertaining to Academy Awards, but actors are tremendously competitive people, like other professions, and actors are constantly either comparing, praising, knocking, or looking at other performances. So from that point of view, I wouldn't agree with him because I think actors are very competitive. Whether Oscars or Emmys or whatever should be given, I don't know. I think if somebody said, well, if you won one, would you take it? And I said, absolutely. In the times that I've been nominated, I was more petrified as to what I was going to say when I got up there than getting it or not getting it, and almost relief when I didn't get it, because they say people are always prepared, and I never have been. And always one of the things I thought I would say is that I really don't know what an Oscar means, because we've been educated through the years, this hoopla, 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 fanfare, circus, 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 circus. And you see people, some deserve it, some you say, how in the world did they ever win that? So I don't know what it really means. If it really means that your peers choose you as one of the best for a given year, that's one thing. But I don't know if it really means that. It's become like almost nondescript or undefinable what that means. But as far as giving awards, people want to do it, so they do it. I don't know. I think you can compare performances. I think you can, in a way. I don't know if it should be done. If that's what he's saying, then maybe I agree with that. But it is done, and that's what it is. And actors like pats on the back, and I'm sure he loved getting an award just as much as other people do. I'd have to talk more about that. I don't know if I completely agree with him on that, because actors do compare on an individual basis because they're tremendously competitive, as competitive as Wall Street or any place artists are. They constantly knock each other.
Can I assume, Bob, that you weren't ready with the speech when you won your Obie for your off-Broadway performance?
I wasn't there. Ulu had to do it.
Oh, you weren't even there?
But when I won an award once for the best something or other in, for the New York Film Critics for The Godfather. And when Olivier won something, Alan Bates got up to say he received it, and then Gielgud made it an acceptance speech. And I turned to Ulu and I said, these English make us seem like mutes. They're so articulate, because the accent helps. And I said the same thing to Richard Attenborough when I saw him in the Philippines. These guys speak, they get up and speak. He outspoke President Marcos, who's a tremendous impromptu speaker.
And Imelda.
Yeah, I'm all right with, you know, back and forth like this, but I'll have to get up to give a speech, it's another thing. Yeah, they call her the Iron Butterfly. Yeah.
And she doesn't even work in Hollywood.
I know.
Oh, well, that explains how you worked on your Dr. Watson accent for the 7% solution. You wanted to do an English accent.
Yeah, I wanted to do an English part.
Let us take another break and we'll come back.
Okay.
Be right back with Robert Duvall.
On tape.